The Black Knight is a fictional character who appears in a scene of the film Monty Python and the Holy Grail. As his name suggests, he is a black knight who guards a bridge over a small stream, which could have been easily stepped over by King Arthur, but, for unknown reasons, he does not. Although supremely skilled in swordplay, the Black Knight suffers from unchecked overconfidence and a staunch refusal ever to give up. Overview. In the film, King Arthur, accompanied by his trusty serf Patsy, is traveling through a forest when he enters a clearing and observes a fight taking place between a black knight and a green knight by a bridge over a small stream. As he watches, the black knight defeats the green, throwing his sword straight through the eye slot of the green knight's great helm. Arthur then congratulates the black knight and offers him a place at Arthur's court at the Round Table, but the black knight only stands still, holding his sword vertically, and makes no response until Arthur moves to cross the bridge. The black knight moves slightly to block Arthur and declares, "None shall pass." King Arthur, in a conciliatory manner, asserts his right to cross, but the black knight says Arthur will die. Arthur orders the black knight to move, but he says, "I move for no man." Reluctantly, King Arthur fights the black knight and, after a short battle, the knight's left arm is severed, which squirts out copious amounts of blood. Even at this, the knight refuses to stand aside, insisting it is but a scratch, insisting that he has had worse, and fights on while holding his sword with his remaining arm. Next, his right arm is cut off, but the knight still does not concede. As the knight is literally disarmed, Arthur assumes the fight is over and kneels to offer a prayer to God. The Black Knight interrupts Arthur's prayer of thanks by kicking him in the side of the head and accusing him of cowardice. When Arthur points out the Black Knight's injuries, the knight insists it's just a flesh wound. In response to the continued kicks and insults, Arthur chops off the Black Knight's right leg. At this point, the knight still won't admit to defeat. Instead, he replies by saying, "Right.Although you for that," and attempts to ram his body into Arthur's by hopping on his left leg. Arthur is annoyed at the Black Knight's persistence, and angrily asks the Black Knight if he is going to bleed on him to win. The Black Knight replies by saying, "I'm invincible." To which Arthur replies, "You're a loony." With an air of resignation, Arthur finally cuts off the left leg as well and sheathes his sword. With the Black Knight now reduced to a mere stump of a man, he says, "All right, we'll call it a draw." Arthur then summons Patsy and rides away, using coconuts to simulate the sound of a horse galloping, leaving the Black Knight's limbless torso screaming threats at him. Behind the scenes, according to the DVD audio commentary by Cleese, Palin and Idle, the sequence originated in a story told to Cleese when he was attending an English class during his school days. Two Roman wrestlers were engaged in a particularly intense match and had been fighting for such a substantial length of time that the match had degraded to the two combatants doing little more than leaning into one another with the body weight. When one wrestler finally tapped out and pulled away from his opponent, it was only then that he and the crowd realized the other man was, in fact, dead and had effectively won the match posthumously. The moral of the tale, according to Cleese's teacher, was, "If you never give up, you can't possibly lose," a statement that, Cleese reflected, always struck him as being philosophically unsound. Cleese said that the scene would seem heartless and sadistic except for the fact that the Black Knight shows no pain and just keeps on fighting, or trying to, however badly he is wounded. Also, as the scene progresses and Arthur becomes increasingly annoyed, his dialogue lapses from medieval to modern, and finally to just plain sarcastic, while the Black Knight remains just as defiant. This scene is one of the best known of the entire film. A famous line of the scene, "'Tis but a scratch," is similar to a line the character Mercutio speaks in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, wherein he demurs, saying, I, a scratch, referring to his mortal wound, and the former has since become an expression used to comment on someone who ignores a fatal flaw or problem. The phrase, "'tis but a flesh wound," following a character entering with coconut shells tied to his feet, notably appeared in an early episode of The Goon Show entitled The Giant Bombardment, broadcast in 1954. The Monty Python group has previously confessed to being influenced by the Goons. The Knight was, in fact, played by two actors. John Cleese is in the Knight's armor until he is down to one leg. The Knight is then played by a real one-legged man, a local by the name of Richard Burton, a blacksmith who lived near the film shoot because, according to the DVD commentary, Cleese could not balance well on one leg. After the Knight's remaining leg is cut off, the quadruple amputee that remains is again Cleese. Cleese still boasts that he had Richard Burton as his stunt double. In the musical Spamalot, the scene with the Black Knight was the most difficult to play on stage, according to Eric Idle. Pen and Amp Teller created the illusion for the musical. In popular culture, the Black Knight makes a brief cameo appearance in Lemon DeMonce's Flash animation song The Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny. A clip of the Black Knight was also used on The Daily Show on December 2, 2010, in order to joke about U.S. Senator John McCain's opposition to the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. In the popular MMORPG World of Warcraft, the Black Knight appears as an NPC who was resurrected multiple times after being slain. The Black Knight was featured again in the spin-off game Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft, with his summon and attack quotes being "None shall pass" and "I am invincible." In the 2012 video game Lollipop Chainsaw, the character Lewis Legend, a dark purveyor and one of the bosses, is influenced by the Black Knight character. Just like the Black Knight, Lewis loses both his legs, and then he begins flying, to which Nick says, "Hey, Black Knight dude, you've got no legs, stop already." Also, keeping with Python, Lewis Legend, being the Black Knight, is the bridge in the spell to summon the final boss Killer Billy. John Cleese played a Black Knight again in the final season of Third Rock from the Sun. The same severing of the Knight's limbs is repeated in the animated computer chess game Battle Chess from the 1990s. The Knight sound bank in Worms 4 Mayhem samples lines such as "'Tis but a scratch" and "It's just a flesh wound," one of the many references to the film throughout the franchise. In his final appearance at Prime Minister's Questions on the 13th of July 2016, David Cameron likened leader of the opposition Jeremy Corbyn to the character of the Black Knight, using the line, "It's only a flesh wound."